Okay, I want to move into market segmentation and a little bit of niche analysis. When we talk about market segmentation, we're talking about small segments of the market. And what is a market segment? It's again, it's a subset of the market. And of course, a subset, they share some sort of a characteristic that holds them together. So it's again, we can think of a segment like an orange segments, where the all of the orange together is the orange, but we then can take subsegments out of the orange. It's important for you to understand segments and understand your market and what are the subsegments in that market, because as a startup, you primarily are going to be targeting a segment or even a smaller part of a segment. And why do I say that? Well, it is very challenging from a managerial perspective and also from a investment perspective to be able to identify a national or international general market and go after it. For startups, it's a much safer, much better, much more profitable strategy generally to go after a small sliver of the market. Identify a small sliver of that market and go after that. Okay, so understanding the segments or ways in which we can divide a market is going to be really valuable to it. And I would suggest if we can divide the market in a certain way, we may be able to be very successful in our market entry strategy. Now, when we segment the market, we can segment across a number of different criteria. For example, demographically, we could segment the market in terms of age, family size here, life cycle, occupation. We could segment by geography in terms of what state or region or country, behavioral, okay, product knowledge, uses, attitudes, psychographic. I would suggest that the behavioral basis and the psychographic basis, lifestyle, values, and those sorts of things, if you can understand how to segment the market using those things, you will be way ahead. And I would suggest that, again, the old style of market segmentation is based on geography and based on demographics. And if we can cut a market, segment a market using a different criteria, we may be able to segment the market in a way that hasn't been done before, and as a result, okay, craft a product or service that is relatively unique for a group of people that haven't been served very properly. Okay. When we look at a market, we can look at the market from a top-down perspective or a bottom-up. We can build the entire market looking at segments and putting them all together, or we can start at the top looking at the overall market and segment it down. This idea of a market of one, as I said before, if we can identify individuals, customers, and craft a product or service for individual, how good a product and service could that be? That could be really, really good. A market of one. The challenge of being a market of one is that your production costs is probably going to go way up as opposed to a mass-produced product. But these days, because of the technology, we're able to mass customize. Okay, in mass customize, we can actually create products and services for one person. And if we can create a product and service, think about this. You can create a product and service for one person, how likely are they to buy it? You understanding exactly what they want and build it, okay, they're very likely to buy it. So what is a niche? A niche, some people say niche, some people say niche. I'm going to say niche for this purpose. A niche is really a sub-segment. It's a small portion of a market, a small portion of a segment. Okay, so some people might just say segment. We can, if we're talking about a very small segment or a specialized segment, we're going to say niche. Now, understanding this niche slash segmentation uh, of your customer base is really important. It's really important. Okay. Key things here. Success in today's marketplace has a lot to do with finding subtle differences to give a business a marketing edge. A business that targets specialty markets, okay, can really be more effective than businesses aiming at the average customer. Because, the average customer may not actually exist. You could have people way on the two extremes and you average them together and they're average, but the average person doesn't actually exist. So if you create a product and service for the average person, there might not be anybody there. So it might be better to take a kind of rifle approach where we target small groups, craft products and services for them, because we know that their customers there. We don't know if the average customer exists. As I alluded to before, this idea of creative market segmentation is powerful. Okay? Meaning if we can cut a market in a way that is not generally crafted, we could have the market all to ourselves. Just for example, a quick example. The highly educated gay urban market is always talked about, because you have these couples, high income, no kids, high educated, urban, into art, into culture, into spending their money, into design, fashion, those sorts of things. Countless products and services are crafted for this market. Oftentimes this market is a lead market into a more suburban market or another urban market. All products and services are created for this particular segment. Gay, urban, high educated. Well, what about if we cut the market a little bit differently, like kind of the opposite? So what about gay but rural as opposed to city? Not even suburban, but rural, gay, let's say middle age, not that well educated. Who's making products and services for them? They have needs, they have wants, but no one's really cutting the market in that sort of way. So if we create products and services for the not highly educated, not that high income, gay, rural couple, we may have that market to ourselves. Now you can say, well, that market might not be big. I don't know if it's big or not, but I also know they're not crafting a lot of products and services for that market. So it doesn't have to be that big if we own the whole market. If we have, let's say, a temporary monopoly and producing products and services for them. Because I guarantee that once we start selling products and services for them, competition will come. But how do we look at a market and divide it in a way that's unusual? For example, let's say we want to define a segment based on actual purchasing behavior or heaviness of use or brand switching. I was doing executive education program, and there was a guy who had his toothbrush. And he was really into his toothbrush. He was the brand manager for a toothbrush segment. But they were producing toothbrushes for people who like to brush their teeth. There's a certain, you might know these people, you might be these people that always have a toothbrush with them. They take a toothbrush to work. After they eat, they brush their teeth. After coffee, they brush their teeth. Before they go home, they brush their teeth. They're really into brushing their teeth. So they have special needs. One, the toothbrush can't be too rough or they'll wear their teeth away. They might have a special handle requirements and all sorts of things. So you create toothbrushes for people who use them a lot. Heaviness of use. That's creative segmentation. these people who brush their teeth a lot probably spend a lot of time and effort thinking about their toothbrushes and are probably willing to pay a premium if they believe that toothbrush is going to meet their needs. Say, well, maybe there's not a lot of them. Doesn't have to be a lot of them. If the selling price is high, the margins are high. Margins on making a toothbrush, no matter if it's a great toothbrush or an average toothbrush, the costs are not going to be that high. So if we have a higher price, a significant portion of that is going to go to margin expansion. So when you're thinking about your products or services, okay, think about how do we segment this market. And again, heaviness of use or purchasing behavior might be one way to go. Now, how do we determine what niche to go into? How do we determine what niche to go to? Now, this is a list. This list is not exhaustive. This just is a few of the criteria you might use to divide your niche. Okay. To divide your niche, excuse me, and select it for entry. Okay. So let me say this again. This is a list of potential reasons why you might choose one niche over another niche. Why niche A instead of niche B? Okay. So, for example, accessibility. It could be that you enter niche A because it's accessible to you. Niche B might be a little bit harder. That's a legitimate reason why you might want to go in A. Okay. Size. Okay. Now, niches are small in general, but maybe we want to go into this particular niche because it's really, really small. And if we go into this niche that's really, really small, and we make a mistake, not a lot of people will know about it. We'll be able to learn from our mistakes and go on to another niche. Profitability. Now, we might go into a niche because it's profitable, or we might go into a niche because it's not so profitable. We might not want to go into the most profitable niche in the beginning because we might want to test what we're doing first with a niche that's not so profitable. Because if we make a mistake potentially in a market that's very profitable, we might not be able to recover. Or we select this niche because it's easy for us to enter. Or we could enter niche A because we can learn the most from niche A. We can learn the most from niche A. Niche A has some sort of common characteristic that makes it a good representation of other niches. So if we do well here, then we can enter other niches. Now, the idea, of course, is once you enter one niche, is then to expand into another niche and another niche and another niche. And the point is that because you have a differentiated product in a particular niche, you have some pricing power, you have some higher margins, that a niche strategy can be more profitable than an entire market strategy. To go after the average, okay, might be much less profitable than going after sub-segments and adding all the sub-segments together at that higher margin rate. Okay, so again, these are some reasons why you might want to enter niche A over niche B or over niche C. So, for example, niche analysis. Okay, basically niche analysis about classifying your customers' needs, targeting who the customers are, okay, coming up with a reason why you want to go into a niche and which niche you want to go to and why. We just talked about how you might want to make that decision. But classifying needs, targeting the customers, and figuring out the specific niche. I have one more segment in customer space to talk about, but it looks like I should probably take a quick break here and get back to you real briefly.